G'day, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac, where we teach you the basics of Swift in 10 minutes or less. Today's lesson is closures. So let's have a look at closures in 10 minutes or less. Closures are self-contained blocks of code. They are typically used in sort or map algorithms and also as callbacks in asynchronous code. Closures are a special form of function that doesn't have a name. So let's create an array of strings, and if we have a function backward string1 string2 returns a boolean, and we return if s1 is greater than s2, and we'll reverse the names with the variable reverse names equals names dot sorted by backward. This is our function backward. So closures can simplify this by the following general form. We open the closure with a brace, and we close the closure with a close brace, and then we have a list of parameters. We have a return value just like you would have in a function. We have in, which means this is the start of the function start processing, and then we have a list of statements. So our reverse names can be in a longhand, not simply stated, but in a longhand stated, names by dot sorted by the first string, the second string, returning a boolean in, and our statements are just return s1 greater than s2. However, this can be simplified by the inferring of data types from the context. So reverse names equals names dot sorted by s1, s2 in return s1 greater than s2. And we have our little braces here. Names is an array of strings, so s1 and s2 can be inferred as strings, and the return value is a boolean, so that can be inferred as the return value, because s1 greater than s2 is always going to be a boolean. To make things even simpler, or more confusing depending on your point of view, Swift has shorthand arguments named $0, $1, $2, etc. that refer to the indexes into the array. If you use the shorthand arguments, you don't need to define the parameter names. They are also inferred. So we can simply say reverse names equals names.sorted by $0 greater than $1. For instances where you have a closure as part of a parameter list for a function, you can place the closure outside of the function definition. So some function that takes a closure and the function is written there, the normal way of writing the closure would be to put the closure followed by the brace in the middle, but you can use a trailing closure, some function that takes a closure, close brace, close brackets, i.e. close the function, and then have the closure after the function name. So we could also write our sort code like this, reverse names equals name dot sorted, and then we would have the $0, $1 closure following. So we use these trailing closures when the closure code requires more than one line of code, keeps our code nice, neat and tidy, and closures can access the parameters within their calling function, and closures are reference types, so even if the class or function is a constant, the closure can still change the values of the member properties. Okay, finally we're going to talk about escaping closures. Escaping closures are closures that are run after the completion of the calling function. This would be the case in an asynchronous network or database call. So we're going to fudge an asynchronous call by creating a variable called completion handlers. It's going to be an array of functions returning void, and it's going to be an empty array. We're going to create a function called some function with escaping closures, which adds the completion handler as an escaping completion handler to our completion handlers array, and we're going to create another function called some function with no escaping closures. This is just a regular closure that's going to be run straight away. So we form a class with a variable x equals 10, and we have a method function called do something, and that's going to call each of our two functions up here, some function with escaping closure, which is going to set the value of x equal to 100, and some function with the no escaping closure to the x equals 200. So we create an instance of some class and we call the method do something, which is here, which calls both of the escaping and non-escaping closures. Then the first thing we do is we print out instance.x and we see that value is 200. So the function with no escaping closure is run immediately. And then when we call the array method completion handlers.first as a function, I'm not going to cover auto closures, but feel free to read up on those. Thanks for your time. Well, that's it for closures. If you have any questions about the tutorial, then please leave a comment below or hit me up on Twitter @SwiftAlmanac. Please subscribe to the channel, it's free, and check out our website at www.swiftalmanac.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.